Hey Van, that
Yes.
road that we were talking about earlier, I'm not gonna mention it, it was from the city.
What you were talking about
Is it
in the city.
Here he
I
is.
don't know. I'm saying hold the line.
Hey.
Scary.
Okay, if I could, I'm going to call to order the meeting, the Loudon County Commission workshop for January 22nd, 2019, noted at 6 o'clock. You should have an agenda. What I'm going to do on the agenda is 7A, I guess it is, which is Allen Brook. Tony has somewhere to be, so we're going to put that right underneath the comments of the general public. There are two mayors with us tonight, the mayor of Lenore City, Tony Akins, and Jeff Harris, the mayor of Loudon City. So welcome, guys.
Thank you. All right.
Anyone from the general public wish to address the commission, please approach the podium and tell us what's on your mind.
Holy smoke.
Nobody?
Is the mayor going to speak during public comment?
He's coming up right after this.
Okay, I guess I'll have to speak before him then.
You better jump.
My name is Pat Hunter, and I've been attending meetings for a long, long time. I would attend Lenore City planning meetings from time to time, mostly when it would affect my quality of life, my neighborhood. And on several occasions, I went to planning meetings about the Jones Farm that became Allen Brook. I went to planning meetings when it came to Harrison Glen, Harrison Woods. When they were starting to develop, I would attend the meetings because I was concerned about a very narrow Harrison Road and more traffic being added to that road. When Allen Brook was annexed, it was the old Jones Farm. And I remember going to that meeting as if it was yesterday. Pat Phillips was the planner. And it was added to the agenda, it wasn't on there. And they annexed it with very little discussion, or they just did it. My understanding, when Lenore City annexed it, that if you lived in the city, now I don't live in the city, but I'm surrounded by the city. But it was my understanding that when you move into the city, that you have city services. They're going to take care of your roads. They're going to provide you with services that in the county we don't necessarily receive, like fire service or fire protection. You're going to get some additional services that you wouldn't receive in the county. So having said that, I thought when you were annexed into the city that the plan of services included the roads and maintaining those roads. It never occurred to me that during the planning development period where the subdivision's being planned, that during that process the roads would be, they would meet specs and they would go into the city. They would be accepted by the city. And it was my understanding that Allen Brook did that. To me, it never occurred to me that we might have any private roads in the city. So what concerns me about this issue, normally I am very staunch, let the city take care of this problem. It's their problem, it's in the city. But I have another perspective because I did attend those meetings. It was a struggle to get the planning department to do what they should have done. And I remember Allen Brook being in different phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And when I attended the meetings, I thought all the roads were in the city. When it went towards the end and building phase 4, because they had different phases, whatever phase it was, I thought that the builder was going to take care of all the problems, any issue out there. And it wouldn't be left on the residents to inherit the problem. And I remember specifically about the turn lane into Allenbrook. It was real important to me because I traveled down Harrison Road, and I would have to compete with the big trucks that were going into Allenbrook, and school buses, because we had more buses coming in and out of the tech center. So it was, to me, it was a safety issue too. But I can assure you that that road, that turn lane, that was on a county road, because the right hand was in the city, the left hand was in the county. It was not going to be built, except that I went to the planning commission, and I had to raise Cain to get the planner to put in the turn lane that was supposed to be installed from the beginning, but it wasn't done until almost the end. And the reason that it was important for me to go and voice my concerns was that, to me, it was a safety issue. But more importantly, I remember that Mr. Newman was going to cut the developer, give him what I would consider a free pass by allowing him to finish the homes over there, but he was getting ready to get rid of, or to release him from the, the letter of credit. And a letter of credit is only as good as, the developer. If he goes belly up, it's no good. We need something more tangible. We need to change our subdivision regulations to where we have a bond. So if they go belly up, the bond's there to take care of it. So I would hope that this is a lesson that we learn, that we need to address those subdivision regulations, both in the county and the city, so we don't have anything like this. But also, if county commission considers paying half, and like I said, I have a problem because Mr. Newman was a county employee, and I feel that there were certain things that he dropped the ball. And as a county employee, and I don't like paying for something that is in the city, I also feel that it is an obligation that we have, a moral obligation, because the people that bought into that subdivision thought they were buying into the city. Now, I don't agree with Mayor Akins many times, but on this issue I do. And I feel that if county commission were to do it, I'm not saying you should, but if you were, in my opinion, in order to protect the county taxpayers, that there be a condition, first, that Lenore City accept all the roads in Allenbrook or any other subdivision annexed into the city, and that they be city roads, and that they maintain them, and this is the one exception to the rule. So, and one other thing, I had a discussion with one of my commissioners, Mr. Shaver, before the meeting, and back a number of years, I have the years on my website, but we, the county, paid a good portion of an access road to a gated community. It's called Tennessee National. And we had annexed, that Loudon City had annexed it. I disagreed with it. I spoke up against it because the agreement had expired and we had no obligation whatsoever. But that is totally different. But this is different also because Mr. Newman dropped the ball. And I know that he dropped the ball on the turn lane going into Harrison Blank. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
Mayor, would you like to make her feel a little better about that and let her know that you have put some things in place to make sure that bonds are
Yeah, when Laura Smith took over in 2014, we had everything from IOUs to personal checks to cashier's checks, and as a regulation, we've got,
Yeah.
I mean, pictures of kids for that matter. But we put some stuff in where it's a lot tighter now. It's not just a fly-by-night when you come in and develop as a developer.
We didn't, the planning commission said no more bonds, no more letters of credit. You paid your subdivision on the front end, you're not gonna get your approval.
Well, that's
Commission didn't do it.
But we sent it down that way. When we had just took office this was in December, I think. We started this ball rolling. 14.
Mayor Akins?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Mr. Mayor, the County Commission, I certainly appreciate you, allowing me to, move me up on the agenda, and of course, the important issue, my 90-year-old mother's out here in the hospital, and I wanna go see her before she goes to bed, so, I appreciate that.
No, we're not there. General public.
Okay, I'm sorry, but, let me agree, Pat's exactly right, it is a moral issue that we, try to help those folks. The cities in the county, and they have a problem out there that was created by none of us in this room. And I've explained that to the homeowners association as well, and they understand that. And the president of the homeowners association, Mr. Hobbs, is here with us. But I asked our road superintendent and Mr. Simpson as well to go out and look and try to give us a number. And
Is that the same Mayor Simpson's on city council?
that's correct.
Okay.
Actually, because he had knowledge of about what it would cost to fix it, I felt like, and so he went out and done some measurement along with J.J. Cox, our road superintendent, and they came back with a figure. But I would ask that county commission consider this. Obviously, we've talked about this. Not throwing anybody under the bus, but we know the issues that happened several years ago with a county employee at that time. And Lenore City and Loudon City participated in those costs for that employee, the Planning Commission Department. And so mistakes were made, and this has gone on for 4 or 5 years. There's more houses on this particular road now. All that is inside the city, but that particular road has not been taken inside. It's not been accepted by the city.
Just that one in the whole subdivision?
That's correct.
Well, that road in Tristan Court in a small section of Lancaster. But those 3 roads make up the 2 plats that we're discussing.
So there's more than one road in there that's not.
But the price that you heard is the total price.
What was that price?
110 total, $55,000 a piece for Loudon County, $55,000 for Lenore City. So I would ask that you consider and try to help those folks out. They are county residents, just like the Lenore City residents, and I don't think that, I mean, you all know the story, but that's it.
So there's 3 sections of road that need to be paved?
Tristan Court is 200 feet long. It's not a huge, so I mean, the main road is Flora Drive. That is the largest road. And then you're looking at about another 175, 200 feet of Lancaster, which is off of Wingate.
But the total price is 110.
110, okay. How long is Flora roughly?
My neighbor walks Flora along with Wingate, so it's one big circle, and it's less than a mile. So you're probably looking at 7/10 total, including Tristan Court and Lancaster. The problem that you have is there's, basically an alligator back down at the bottom. I've got some pictures if you guys would like to view those pictures, but also some section of road that has basically worn down to the gravel. The entire road is not totally shot. There's 3 or 4 potholes in it. One we fixed. but overall, it just needs to have, that one section is in the same place, that needs to be repaired, and then the whole road needs to be top coated.
And how many total residents live in the neighborhood, or how many HOA team members do you have?
There's 168 lots in the entire subdivision.
And all of them are owned, and people are paying HOA fees on those?
Correct. I mean, I've got a couple.
And let me add too, it's a very small HOA.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I had the coincidental opportunity to go to the Little City Council meeting 2 weeks ago now when this topic came up. Mr. Hobbs, I think it is,
Yes, sir.
and a large group of his folks showed up. Apparently this has been an ongoing thing for a number of years, if I remember what I was hearing right. And I'll agree with Tony, this is certainly a moral issue, but it's not the county's moral issue. I sat back there, I'm sure I nearly passed out when I heard Mr. Mayor here and Mr. Simpson talking about that the county needs to get in on top of this. This is in the city, it's always been in the city, it's a city street, not even half, not Harrison Road kind of thing, it's not half's ours, half's ours, this is all in the city. The argument about Russ Newman, we went through this with Warriors Chase, that was the first one. And we'll need to kind of divide up these different issues that's going on. Warriors Chase was the group that came in here right after we came in 14. We had never accepted their roads into the road system. They wanted their roads fixed because the developer bailed out, didn't put the top coat on it. We said, sorry, we can't help you. Pave your roads and we'll take them into the county. We did that. That's exactly what we did. Out here in Tony's situation, Allenbrook, you've got the same thing. Supposedly, the process then was a bond or a letter of credit by a developer. They would allow them to do so much development before they had to put the top coat on, as long as they had this letter of credit or this bond in place. Many years after the fact, as far as we all knew, Russ Newman's maintained this. Well, actually, they're in Chip Miller's office. Russ didn't keep anything anywhere. All these documents, and they're still there. Except Allenbrook, which was turned over to Lenore City when they decided to do their own planning commission.
Actually, let me correct you on that. In 2006 is when that letter of credit was supposed to be issued.
Right,
At that time, Russ Newman was the director of all the planning.
that's correct.
He never did accomplish obtaining that letter of credit. So
I agree with
That's on
you.
Mr. Newman. Now, if you want to go further and talk about Amberley Meadows, that was just paved by the county outside the city limits, but you're taking our tax dollars and paving that, but
That's
you're
correct.
not willing to do anything for us when Russ Newman was the major problem that we can all agree on.
Russ Newman was the city planner, and he was Loudon City's planner, and he was Loudon County's planner. Lenore City paid for part of Russ Newman's salary, Loudon City paid for part of it, we paid for the lion's share of it. But let me finish up where I'm going. When we went through this with Warriors Chase, we had Bob Bowman sit right here in this room and explain to us about bonds and letters of credit. He said they're not worth anything. They don't mean anything. There's no legal binding anything to a bond or a letter of credit. And I'm going to give you his exact analogy. He said it's just like in the state of Tennessee, you have to have a driver's license to drive a car. It's illegal to drive a car without a driver's license. But you can do it. You can drive a car without a driver's license. But if you get caught, there's consequences. Same thing with a letter of credit or bond. This is Bob Bowman, this isn't me. It was at the time, it was up on the developer's responsibility to carry this letter of credit and bond and to keep it up to date. It wasn't Russ Newman's place to keep it up to date. It was the developer's place to keep it up to date. Warriors Chase, the developer, belly up, gone, couldn't find him if you had to. Allenbrook, apparently developer gone, out of place, gone. I'm assuming you all haven't tried to pursue him, because that's who's actually responsible for it. Now we want to talk about Amberley Meadows. You heard Eddie's story on that one. I thought it was great. The green sign story. That's what that one's coming to know. They had no signs in their subdivision in mid-2005, 2006, 2007, and it was a hazard because they had no street signs. Emergency personnel couldn't find the streets if they came in there. They contacted Eddie. Eddie agreed to go in and put the signs up. By his own statement, the other night at City Council meeting, oops, I made a mistake. I put green signs up instead of blue signs. Because if it's blue signs, that means it's not a county road. If it's a green sign, that means it's a county road. And I mistakenly put up the wrong signs. So the county attorney advised me and the commission that we should go ahead and adopt those roads into the county road system since they had green signs. And that happened in 2007. Amberley Meadows was taken in and put on the county road list in 2007. Eddie Simpson paved them in 2018. Those roads were on the county list and had been for 11 years before Eddie Simpson paved them. Now, I think I heard your group say the other night that you all have green signs and street lights and other city amenities. So we did what we had to do at Amberley Meadows. They were county streets. Sooner or later, and you brought up that part about the tractor payment. He wasn't given anything. He was given a 1-year extension to make his tractor payment. Nothing was dismissed. I heard y'all discuss that the other night at City Council. So, if we're going to start taking on paving city streets, and I'm sorry for your plight, but right here's where it lays. This fellow and these 6 city councilmen, they need to adopt your street into the city street system and pave it at their earliest possible moment. Whether Russ Newman let a bond expire, again, the attorney says he wasn't responsible for the bonds. That's the developer's responsibility. But even if you put it on Russ Newman, he was your planner, he was your all's planner, and he was our planner. So it's no more a county thing than it is a city thing. But the precedent of going into the city, it was bad enough to do half of Harrison Road, or $3/4 or $2/4 or $250,000, whatever it was, but to actually go into a city, any city, into a subdivision and start paving roads, they might as well just give us all the roads and let us take them off. There's the downside. That's the precedent you set when you start. Legally, we can't even pave anything that's not on the county road list.
You didn't have to pay Amberley Meadows, though, did you?
We sure, well, that was up to Eddie.
You adopted it, you didn't have to pay it.
But Eddie Simpson did it after 11 years. It's in the county. It was our
I'm
responsibility.
not questioning when you guys decided to actually put it on the list. I think.
2007.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check on that, but.
Okay.
Do you have the minutes or anything that you?
I'm sure somewhere I do, but I haven't got those with us tonight because this was debated very hot and heavily about paving Amberley Meadows. Ultimately, that's the road superintendent's decision, what he pays. Different than the city, our road superintendent's elected. We fund him. He pays whatever he wants to pay because when I'm emailing back and forth with all those citizens, I'm telling them, Eddie Simpson can pave your road tomorrow. That's his call. Now, it doesn't work that way in the city. They don't have an elected road superintendent. Ours can pave anything he wants to, anytime he wants to, in the unincorporated parts of the county.
So
We have no say-so over what Eddie Simpson does.
So you're telling me Eddie Simpson wasn't forgiven for anything?
No, sir. He was let postpone $40,000 tractor payment for 1 year. Am I right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, we didn't give him anything. That was his request that we dismiss his, he borrowed the money from us to go buy tractors.
We almost did.
We almost did.
We caught it before it
Yeah.
came.
He borrowed the money from us essentially to go buy these tractors. Then the agreement was he'll pay us back over 3 or 4 years, whatever it was. And so then when this Amberley Meadows thing come up right about election time, he starts jizzing this thing up about, hey, I need to pave your roads, but the county commission won't give us any money. Well, they come down here and said, we fund him every year. He's got $200,000 or $300,000. He's got $500,000 in paving money. He can pave it tomorrow. Well, he says you won't give him any money. That's not true. He's got the money. He can pave your road anytime he wants to. So he come and ask us to dismiss his tractor payment, $40,000, something like that. And that's what he thought would pay to go be enough to do Amberley Meadows or part of it. And we said, no, we're not going to give you any more money. We're already funding you. But what we ultimately did was give him a year off, not a dismiss, but he got to skip 2018 on his tractor payment, but he comes back 2019 and makes his tractor payment. Am I on the money, Tracy?
You are.
I'm going to just make sure I got my days right. That's the story of Amberley Meadows, and that's what's different. I heard that come up the other night, and that's the difference between Amberley Meadows. But they were on the Loudon County road list from 2007, according to Eddie Simpson. I heard him say that on the front sidewalk the other night. From 2007 until he paved it in 2018.
I was just referring to a news article that was different.
Tony, the city council can put your road on the city road list any day they want to. They could have voted last Monday night to include Florida Drive on the road list and could say to you, you're now in the rotation. As soon as the rotation comes up, they can pick it. They can decide what they pave when they pave. They have a budget, I'm sure an asphalt budget just like we do.
I don't think anybody is not arguing the facts in that. I don't think anybody's arguing that at all. I think one of the biggest issues is the past needs to be corrected, the mistakes that were made. Russ Newman may not legally on paper and arguably in a court of law be able to be held responsible, but there is some responsibility to the taxpayers that the county and the city keep track of their bonds to ensure the productivity and the growth, the proper growth in the county and the city. And at the time, Russ Newman dropped the ball on that, and we were financially responsible for him. They were financially responsible for him, regardless of which mayor or which county commissioners were elected at the time that let that go through. The moral obligation is to fix these issues so that moving forward in Loudon County for growth, especially in a subdivision that is growing and bringing people in, that we need to make sure that they feel safe enough to come and ask for help when it wasn't anybody in this room that dropped the ball, but we need to be able to fix these mistakes going forward. Make sure that the people that were responsible for it are at minimum listed in the newspaper article, fix these mistakes and move forward so Loudon County can grow and make sure that this never happens again.
What mistake are you referring to?
The Russ Newman issue.
Russ Newman wasn't responsible for the bonds and
Legally on paper, absolutely not.
on anything. I mean that's kind of what this whole thing hinges on.
Okay.
So it's the developer's responsibility, actually for their own
Nobody
protection.
is disagreeing that on paper,
Well, then
the
why
developer is
is
100%
responsible?
responsible for all of these things. Nobody's saying that's not true. Mike Ross was held responsible for a lot of his things, but a lot of them he wasn't. Loudon County, just like every county in 2005 to 2008, saw dollar signs coming out of the woodwork. All these developers were showing up, flashing money around, and everybody wanted part of it. And that was just the economy at the time. Unfortunately, the elected officials at the time, that's all they saw too. That's all Russ Newman saw too. Now we know better. But some people fell through the cracks. Some roads fell through the cracks. Some things fell through the cracks. Regardless, those things have to be fixed, whether it's on our watch or the next person's watch.
They do need to be fixed, but it's the city's place. We don't have a thing in this hunt.
When did the city, what year did the city annex Allenburg?
About
1990.
19 years ago.
How many?
19.
1999, I think. Right? Before it was a city,
It
before it was a subdivision, they annexed the land before it was a subdivision. It's been in the city since conception.
May I ask one question to Mr. Waller? Please. Mr. Waller, you were on the planning commission.
Not in 1999, no.
No, but you were recently on the planning commission. And from what I remember about the planning commission meetings was that the respective planning commissions were also supposed to renew the letters of credit every year, were they
Well,
not?
like, that changed in 2014.
Yeah, but up to 2014, weren't they not responsible? The planning commissions
Well,
had
that's
to
what
renew them.
we were told, this county commission at that time, that Russ dropped the ball because the bond date expired. The bank that provided the bond said they refused to address the issue because it was.
Are you on Warriors Chase 18?
That's what. That's what we've been talking about half of the time here tonight.
Yeah, but what I'm
But
saying
this
is
is
that-
explaining how he did drop the ball.
There
But
was-
it wasn't his job.
But it was, there was
Whose job
a.
was it?
Well,
It was the developer's job.
So
The
you're
bank-
telling me you're gonna tell.
It's
the developer-
insurance.
Hang on a second. Okay, so
He
you're
left
telling me
the
that you're
country.
gonna
He's
require.
not here.
Well, you're gonna tell me you're gonna require a developer to obtain a letter of credit, but nobody cares about getting the letter of credit dealing with the planning commission.
The letter of credit is a form of an insurance to the developer. He buys that. He goes to the bank and gets his
I
credit
understand.
or his bond in case something goes wrong. He has insurance. It behooves him to keep his letter of credit or bond up. It's not the county's responsibility to keep the letter of credit or the bond
I
up.
understand that, but is it not somebody's responsibility to make sure that they've got the letter of credit?
The court decided that it was the county's fault.
What court?
They took us to court up there, at that one. And they said it is the county's job because the fella that was developing it left the country didn't renew the bond. The bank that gave the bond said it wasn't their place to renew it. That was our place. We had it, so we got the date, we know where it goes out, so he said it was our responsibility, to do that.
We haven't been to court on any of them.
No,
We
they
haven't a judge say no.
He's talking
from the
about Harrison Lane,
subdivision told me
that
that they
subdivision
did.
off Harrison Lane.
We didn't go to court there. That's Amberley Meadows. Ain't nobody been to court.
Not on this.
So I believe it is currently
Yes.
the planning commission's responsibility to make sure that these bonds don't
We
expire.
don't do them
early.
anymore. In
Bonds.
2014, we don't do any of them anymore. You have to pay them. That's what Adam was talking about, 2014, what Buddy talking about. We said, no more of this. Whatever the problem is, we stop this practice, and from now on, you'll get your
Didn't
final
you,
approval
Mayor,
to it's all done.
excuse me, can I make a comment? Didn't you, Mayor, say in your opening comment that the road was a county road? That's what I understood you to say.
No,
Part of the road?
No part.
no, Ms. Hunter was talking about when the subdivision was developed, when Harrison Road was part of the county road. Look, you know, we can sit here and debate all night long whose responsibility it is. The fact of the matter is, it was a county employee shared by both cities, a county employee shared by both cities. And we should do the right thing and help these people out. The county shares as much of a responsibility as Lenore City government does. And we need to work together and for the better good of these people out here and do the right thing morally and fix this road.
If we do,
And
we'll
Mr.
retake
Chairman, I'll be
the
happy to
case.
take any other questions. If not, I'll sit down.
If we do spend a dime in Allenbrook, we have to repay, Warriors Chase their $40,000. That's mine and Harold's district, and I'll fight that one tooth and nail. If we're gonna pave city roads, then we have to compensate county roads.
If the
I
county,
should think that they should be compensated for it. And I.
Well, that's $100,000 we're talking about spending.
Homeowners have to pay their own out before we do.
I understand.
Whatever the money is.
Mayor
And if I
Akins-
could bring some sense,
Mayor,
go ahead.
Mayor Akins,
Yes, ma'am.
have you checked to see, are there any other situations like this that we are together?
I'm sure there may be other situations out in the county, I don't know. I don't know of anything else right now. But, I mean, it's a problem that
Is there any
slipped
way
by.
that we could do a little check to see if there are any more situations like this?
Well, I don't know how to check unless someone comes forward, but,
Thank you.
you know, I would, you know, I just think that we need to try to take care of the citizens of Loudon County.
You
Lenore
do,
City,
you need to
Loudon
take care of your
City.
city residents,
And-
that's what you need to do.
But man, they pay county taxes.
Well, then why don't we pave all your roads? Why don't we pave all your roads?
Okay.
What's the jurisdictional issue here? They get the same services as every other county resident, so we should just take over Lenore City, Loudon City roads, Greenback roads, take them all. Under that argument,
Mayor Akins, here's where we're going with this. At the Budget Committee, it was agreed that it would not go through the Budget Committee, but go through the entire commission. On February 4th, there'll be a vote on this particular road and subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Sir,
the public
February 4th,
I know what my picture
be
will
a
be.
commission vote. Anyone from the public that wishes to address the commission on anything, step to the podium. Okay. All right, we've addressed the Allenbrook subdivision. Loudon County Mayor Buddy Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, we can take B off, 2B, and come off the agenda.
Which one?
2B.
Which
Interlocal agreement.
bingo,
Why? Who be?
they didn't get it done.
They chose the sheriff's department was pulled, so.
Good.
Okay,
Yeah, and D as well. D as well, we pulled off. So A and
no,
C.
C.
Or A, or B and D. B and D, under B can be.
Come on, man, come on.
2B, 2D, mark through.
So you're knocking off the advocacy center?
Yes.
Okay.
A is the 911 board term update, Darryl Smith, Rich Mark, Don White. They are current members on there, would be my recommendation, Commission, we just continue to let them serve. Vendors Community Center, in lieu of, and I had no idea, MBI had already been down there, we talked about it in budget as well, I think that, I think next step would probably be for me and Gary and any commissioners who wanted to attend, probably set up a town hall meeting down at Vendors.
I wouldn't go in the building.
I ain't going to the community center, they're gonna get the church to open up, but to approach them. I don't know if I trust any of it after reading that whole thing.
You're fine.
It'll be out handed out. Go down there and talk to them and we'll have to readdress it, hopefully by, February workshop, we'll have some information to move on and kind of go from there.
And there was nobody that doesn't already know the whole circumstance, I think everybody knew about it in the budget committee, wasn't it? Well, Julia was, Kelly was.
The Vendors Community Center, the old community center, and I'd like to say it opened in 1983, it's now very possible.
Something got it.
Yeah, the old school, it's our community center, the fish fries, they're actually the only thing down there of any public, that the public can actually use. And so it's not in real good shape at all.
The request originally was to repair this and repair it for $32,000 or something
38.
like that.
It looks like it's gonna be far,
Me
even
and
since
Buddy went down.
September, deteriorations. I wouldn't think, I'd ball about it if the commission chooses and depending on what they say down there, maybe even burn it down, I don't know.
You have a voting
But if somebody says you can't burn
It
it,
makes it even matter, so you vote. So you have a big old gym out here on this end, you have an add-on down here, and this is actually where we vote. But this is the part that's falling down. It's all ours, every bit of it's
it's all the
ours.
same building.
It's part of the same, well, it's not, it's two separate buildings.
What did MBI say as far as just a quick?
The short end was, yeah, it's
Yeah,
half.
so they would recommend even going in.
Make sure your life.
I'll send that out, I've got it on my email, Susan forwarded it to me, I'll send it out to all the commissioners, they also let me know, their recommendations, stay away from it.
Mayor, you got also added that 38,000, it's over a $25,000 limit, which requires by state law an architect to come in
Yeah,
and do the design work for the repair, so you've got to add architecture work to that.
you're putting another, how many thousand on top of that, just for repair.
Did we have it roped off well and?
It's like, the part where you vote is, I mean, it's all keyed in, but there's actually deadbolts that people out of the gymnasium itself. And the pictures that MBI took in September are nothing compared to what it is now. Used to off the wall, there was not that much, you could tell it did. Now it's all at least to the free throw line.
We need, for some reason, on liability reasons, put more signs up or something.
Well, Becky Richardson has the keys in it, and I talked to her yesterday, she said nobody goes in the gym. She's got.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, they still have access, the one room is still closed. Well, the gymnasium part is the party floor, it's dead ball. They, everybody might put a sign up, no entrance.
You can't get there from here. You have to go to Monroe County, drive back in 28 miles, and then you stop on the right and pull down in the hole. Am I telling the truth? You gotta go to Monroe County to get there.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Hey, let's,
Eighteen's got a question.
Can I, you're still adding stuff to speak, I'd like to make a comment about the legislative, chairman.
You not on here? Let's put you at the end.
I'll put you at the end, Harold.
Well, it's myself and Julie is on the committee.
All right.
We'll just put you right here at the end, you have the whole section.
RVs and outhouse,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
This would be addressed to Mr. Mayor. Maybe you call Clayton Tangle tomorrow. I think he is still on the board of East Tennessee Community Design Center, and if they could undertake this as a project, through their network of architects, I think that would be a way that we could reduce our cost possibly to zero. They do a lot of work like this.
You done there?
David.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. Thank you all.
Get me started on that. All right, if I could for a few moments here, under my name, you see the food line, and that's not to go grocery shopping tonight. Here's the issue in the village. Everybody knows Telco Village is in the unincorporated part of Loudon County. No liquor stores.
You could have.
You could incorporate any time.
I understand, but that's not my decision. The issue comes down to, a little while ago, Telco Village POA got an issue where they could have a liquor store, wine, beer, booze, whatever. Now, I gotta tell you, I don't drink. But what I'm getting beat up on the village every day for is, how come the food line can't have wine like every other grocery store, and the POA can have a liquor store? They're in the unincorporated part of Loudon County. Why can they do it and Food Line can't? So my request is, I'm gonna ask the mayor to put a resolution together, send it on off to Nashville to see if we can't get a private act to get some relief to help the Food Line out. They sit there at the corner of the village at a competitive disadvantage. You can go right around the corner to Food City on 72, buy a bottle of wine. You can go to Ingalls, Food City in Lenore City. And I was in the Food Line a while back, and Joe Yearout, who's the manager, was there with his managers from headquarters, and they asked. I said, well, it's the unincorporated part, and they said, the POA got it, why can't we? You gotta be brutally fair. So that's the issue, that's the Food Line. I'm gonna ask the mayor if we couldn't get a resolution together, vote on it February 4th, and then send it to Nashville.
I'd actually say, I'd already signed it and sent it back when it got kicked back, because they're not unincorporated.
You were busy. I missed part of your statement a minute ago. You said something about somebody else being in an unincorporated part selling wine. What did you say during your statement?
No. It's a competitive disadvantage. They can go around the corner to the
But
incorporated.
prior to that, you said something about somebody else being in an incorporated part.
The POA's in the unincorporated part too.
Well, for the short explanation of course, the law changed, the law passed, not changed. The liquor store in the POA was done, that was as awful as dirty as a political thing ever happened, but it happened, it's done, it's state law. But when Loudon County voted for package stores, and it passed, at that point, that allowed wine sales in grocery stores in the cities.
That's right.
Currently, there's nothing that allows wine sales or alcohol sales in the county. So what you're wanting to do is send a resolution to Nally. Let me say, and Henry already knows this, I have for 30 years, I have been probably known best for being an anti-alcohol guy. And I like Henry, but I can't support adding more alcohol to Loudon County. Nothing personal.
Well, and aside from that, I'll tell you how that works out in the legislature. So for them to be able to write any amendment or to do any omnibus bill for you to open that up and to change that, it would have to absolutely 100% be, it would need to be your county person, which is Will Russell. It needs to be submitted and it has to have a co-sponsor in the Senate, which would be McNally. But each state House of Representatives member only gets 12 bills. So if he's going to use one of his 12 to do that, you need to get him writing it right now because the bill cutoff date is February 14th.
Private act.
We're gonna have to see if we, all I'm trying to do is right or wrong and make the playing field even. You know, I'm looking at Richard there, he Ford Motor Company. The thing you learn with Ford Motor Company is you gotta be brutally fair. How can you do it for one and not for the other? So that's it, and I'm getting bombarded in the village.
I like Julie's idea of incorporate Telco Village and a lot of problems are solved. First mayor of Telco Village, Richard Ankle. Vice Mayor Henry Cullen. Hopefully no more. Y'all can get your whole board set up. Winston Blade, he could be your city manager.
Okay.
Do you need permission, consent to do this?
I guess we're gonna have to get a resolution together and send it
Yes.
through the commission.
The legislators wouldn't want it unless it was voted on by the commission. And usually it's a 2/3. It's what it used to be right up until, let's see, they quit doing the 2/3 on one of the special.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I will
That's
say,
the only,
I will
that's the only
say,
grocery store we
I will
failed.
say this is gonna set.
That's the only one.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen here is if we do this, I just want you to understand the long-term ramifications of this one move, because it is the rock in the pond. There are 95 counties in the state of Tennessee with all your legislators that one county is gonna say, well, we made an exemption for one thing and now we're asking for our county grocery store to have this. What you're going to start is another one of those lobbying wars in Nashville between county versus city, state rep versus state senate, and the cities versus the counties. It's going to be grocery store lobbyists versus liquor store lobbyists, and I can promise you, when I was there the first time, it wasn't fun. It is going to be a presidential election year in 2020, just keeping all of that in mind. So
And it's kind of a precedent
It's going to
setting,
start a little bit of a war.
kind of a precedent setting, right?
Yeah.
I
Kind of
want
like
to
paving the street in
statewide,
the city.
how many
Since
grocery,
you've already done it once, I can't.
how many grocery stores are actually not in the city limits?
It was good.
Statewide.
I don't know.
They're just looking at our
I would
city
call the
limits.
grocery store lobbyist to find that out. There's a grocery lobbyist, so he has one job.
There's a lobbyist
His
for
job.
everything.
Their lobby was to get wine in the grocery store.
And they did.
Like any Sweetwater or Monroe County, I can't think of any.
It would have to be in a place like
Yeah.
maybe
Maybe Cumberland County.
Hey, Henry,
Yeah.
does the food city on the corner of 441 and 72 sell anything?
I didn't hear you.
Because that's in the unincorporated part of Monroe County.
I didn't hear you.
What is it?
The
Food
Food
City.
City on the corner of 441 and 72, just around the corner, there's a Food City there.
In Baltimore?
That's Baltimore City.
That's Baltimore City.
Yeah, they can do it, I think.
That's
Yeah.
it, that is in
That's in the
Baltimore.
city limits of Baltimore.
That's in the city.
The state of Tennessee is not going to issue, at the current stand, they're not going to issue a permit to sell alcoholic beverages. That's not beer, alcoholic beverages, outside of what the law permits. And the law doesn't permit a grocery store to sell wine in unincorporated sections, so you're not going to find one of those.
Well, you start somewhere though.
Let's try it. I don't know where it's gonna go. I just think it's something that we have to try to level the playing field. If it gets turned down, well, we did our
A lot of
best.
sales tax right there.
Can we not simply line, just line it into the Loudon City?
Okay, the next thing on mine was the street lights at 444 and 72. Jack Wall's got that handled, what, this week?
That's correct, we're waiting on the amendments have been done for the cost was, it came in for about, $18,000 for the CEI. That is 100% funding, it's not gonna cost the county any more money, but it did have to be budgeted and amended. It has to go to FHWA for that final approval. Once that's approved, we'll bid the project out. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll get that approval and go forward with the bid process.
Jack, what is the recount on 72 and Interstate
For,
the traffic lights?
there's, as far as the 14,000 trips, it doesn't meet the warrant for traffic light.
What interstate you talking about?
It's on the exit 72.
72.
It met warrant one on the north side, but it didn't meet warrants on the south side.
Is there anything that we can try to do to pursue that more with the state?
You know, the way the state works with the crash data, it's an average on the 3-year running basis for the crash data, so I mean, we don't wanna wish anybody, you know, the crash data get worse.
No.
That's kind of where we're at with it until traffic picks up.
The other request I have on mine is where you come off the ramp on the new bridge that was open at 444. At night, on a rainy night, and I can see good. That's pretty difficult without a light, so I'm gonna see if we can't get one for there.
Yeah, and there's another lighting, I think that the mayor had forwarded me, he had forwarded to TDOT trying to get some lighting at 95 and 30, I don't want to steal the thunder here, but, you know, one of the things, both these are inside the TPO boundary, and so when they're inside the TPO boundary, the TPOs, the Transportation Planning Organization, so it's inside the metropolitan area, you can get federal funding, but there again, it has to go through a scoring mechanism, we have to put an application in, they're due March 1st, it's a 12-page application process, it goes through a scoring mechanism, and then they rank those projects, and that's,
Who fills those out? Who does, I know we got the,
my office does those for you.
huh?
My office does those for you. So if that's something that you would like to do, I would need to get those
Oh, yeah, we're-
ASAP.
My question is, do you people not have headlights on your car? What's the
The
problem?
the likelihood of us getting this project though is,
I feel like that one spot is like a black hole, it just sucks the light right out of your headlight, you just pass it right up.
the likelihood of us getting this project, because we're competing with other projects in the region, so it's not just our county. So what, they will score those. What I suggested on the 95-321 was, we didn't get a chance to meet the mayor, we had something scheduled and something came up, was there maybe look at asking TDOT to do blinking caution lights with a solar kind of battery backup, at least that way you know that the intersection's approaching. There is an issue, when I looked at that intersection, if you're in the right-hand lane headed from Maryville to North City, there's only 225 feet between the junction sign and the actual turn lane. And so it's difficult to make that maneuver from the right lane to the left lane to make that turn. So there does need to be some sort of warning approach at that intersection.
They're supposed to upgrade the signage.
And they will, but they're not gonna do a caution light unless we actually go that much more next. Here's two things I've asked in the email I sent back to the mayor is who's gonna pay for the maintenance, which would come back to the county highway department, and who's gonna pay for the annual bill. Because the annual bill is something that TDOT's gonna wanna know, who's gonna maintain and who's gonna pay for it. So those are two of the big things they're gonna have to know before I can fill out the
And I
application.
talked to Mr. Salvin in Nashville. He said it could be that the state would pay everything, or the state would split the cost with the county. But also that our application has to be in by the end of February for the TPO grant.
That's right.
So we need.
And I talked with him, and he said we're not gonna qualify. And I think it was a phone call, let me see. Let me make sure instead of
TPO would be an 80-20 match. For example, I think the 6 lights down at the 444 to 72, the average cost, I think, for those 6 street lights is about $102,000.
A year?
No, that's installed. I don't know what the
Put
year
it in.
actually, that's the installation, that's buying installation engineering, because it will have to be engineered because it is on a federal right of way, so you're gonna have to pay for all that up front.
Yeah, he started barking on stuff, and I said, listen, I wouldn't want the street light, I'm not asking for about.
They don't do that no more, it don't happen that way.
But I'm willing, I'm more than willing to help you fill out an application if that's what you wanna pursue, and we can do
It's
that.
not a bad idea, do the one with the battery back.
When, and the planning office was very helpful when they had several wrecks at 60 and recently, or 72. I think we put those 2 warning lights up for about $14,000 to $16,000.
Well, our state rep, Lowell, took the ball first and did some work for me, and then got back in touch with me and gave us directions, but, he agreed with me, he said, I travel that way a lot, and he says, at night, you cannot see the road. And I said, that's what the people are telling me, during the day, we're pretty good, but we're not, yeah, we're
Well,
not.
y'all not traveling night.
But we're not vampires, so
Stay
we can't see.
home. It starts getting dusky, dark, yet go to the house.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I want to point out, and I forwarded every one of you this application tonight, right before our meeting, so you have this information in front of you, is the ADA transition plan that is a new requirement that the federal FHAVA came out with a couple of years ago. It's been on the books forever, but you have to have an approved ADA transition plan. So moving forward for these grants, for these roads, if the county doesn't have one, then we're gonna be penalized. So I don't know where that stands. That's something that I brought up a couple times. Mayor, Commissioner Duff, remember at my meetings, we brought up the ADA transition plans. And so there's a difference in, so this year I got you certified as a Title VI ADA plan through TDOT. I got you certified for that because that's an annual requirement that's also necessary to have. But as far as the actual ADA transition plan, it has to have in there all your public facilities, the sidewalks to those facilities, and those kinds of things. So I'm not sure where that plan's at or who has it, but we will need to get that approved. Any more questions for me?
You're saying ADA in reference to.
American Disabilities Act?
Yeah, I know, but
encompasses both. It wants to know all of your county-owned properties and also the sidewalks into those properties. They have to be identified. If they're in disrepair, you have to budget when they will be repaired. All that information has to be put in a packet, submitted to TDOT for their approval, and FHWA will also be looking at
And
those.
like I said, any signs on state roads have to be large enough for people with normal vision and read them in daylight or dark?
That would fall under your MUTCD code that's required anyway.
I already asked all these questions to that lady, she got very angry with me, remember?
Yes, she did.
She got
You
very
have us
upset
for
with me.
this?
I'd be more glad to help with the application. I just don't know where the plan, the ADA transition plan, I don't know who's working on it.
So we need to get
Who
ADA
has
transition
it, but
plan.
we need that.
Done.
Thank you.
Commissioner Franke worked on the last ADA, report for the county. I think they worked on it for that one, Tracy.
Oh, man, oh, man, put me, me and Leo Bradshaw, we met them New Yorkers in Washington DC boys for 6 months. You all wanna get a mess, start ADA anything. I'll go hold a flashlight somewhere, somebody before we start calling ADA. Good gosh, almighty, that's all.
Okay, Jack, we'll pursue 444 and 321 and 95 and 321, those 2 additional streetlights.
And so from a budgetary standpoint, when I'm putting this budget together for these lights, I mean, I'll obviously find some engineer to help us pro bono to come up with the number and all that, but from the cost monthly, annually, is it assumed that the county will fit that bill, or is that?
We pick up the utility bill on all of them.
Okay, I just want to clarify that you will.
Push every come to shove, we know we've got permission for the streetlights at 95 and 321, we just have to pay the bill for them.
But it's always nice to have a quote on the ones that you reference with the battery backup and the solar, so that way we have cleaner.
So I just installed four pedestrian.
Now get a quote, just saying.
4 pedestrian beacons that flash when you push a button. Those pedestrians at Hubble, as part of one of their projects, it was $53,000. So I don't know, it would be, we're kind of in that ballpark. So.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes me
Me.
and Coach.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take this 5-minute recess.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Now, we're LoCo Comm.
Yes, we're fine. Hey, I'm a little shitty. Anybody can jump on that wagon?
No, they
You've been eating ever since I've been.
Don't get them on, don't be good messing.
Here,
The jalapenos?
We're good.
I'll bring you some hot.
Okay.
Of course, I can see, you've got to have some control, people be putting
They're pretty hot.
everything.
Adam, they're pretty hot.
I'll bring some hot ones next time.
Woo, yeah.
So I become mayor.
What's that?
I become mayor.
I'm gonna be a citizen. And I'm gonna be on this side rather than that side. I gave him the whole packet on that incorporated.
I'm hearing a lot of
The problem is, Von Orr. Now, I haven't been in that Bible, but I do go to the line. I go to the food line quite a bit.
Yes, I need to get
We don't need.
Oh,
What I'll do is make.
Okay. All right.
It may be Monday, but I will.
Oh, absolutely, so why would that
Yeah,
not?
I can't say a little bit.
Please, step off this first.
So, when I do the grant application, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I have to take it through grant committee, I mean, through
Yes.
the budget committee too?
Who's behind you?
Or how does that work? Or does it wait till you get funded and then take it back to the budget committee? That's what I said.
Well, he got the message.
Yeah, I didn't know if you looked at yours or not.
No, what I did.
Okay, take it.
That's right. We really should be like. We just rolled it.
Yeah, that's Kelly. You're on.
No, those are small.
Well, no, you're squaring it, I'll do my bit. Tracy. This is gonna be going on Thursday. Pick this up, this could be one of our areas of play. Let's see, we've got, this one could be really good. But if you don't enjoy this, download that, you was acting. Yeah, I remember you said that. I'm sitting there texting him and
The 911.
he looked back, give me a number. Give me like, you know.
Are you actually on?
Oh, no.
In the city, do it, get it off your back. So.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.